Hey, what's up? Um, I meant to actually mention this earlier when I started using this new camera. That's why the quality is kind of shitty or worse than my other camera because my other camera broke. And it wasn't my fault. It was a certain somebody's fault. If you're watching. um, so yeah, I'm using the camera that I usually just use for taking pictures, not recording video. So that's why it's all kind of weird. But just hang in there. Well, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say hang in there because it might be a while till I get a new, video camera. So I guess this will just have to do. Anyway, I at the moment I felt like reviewing one one of my favorite albums of all time. I was just kind of in the mood to talk about this particular album, so that's what I'm doing. Relationship of Command by At the Drive-In. If you've seen my track review of Cosmonaut, which was the first song that I heard from this album, I believe, one of the first anyway. It was the first song that I really grew to like. And yeah, if you've seen that, it's really cool to kind of see the progression because I say in that video that like, yeah, at first his voice kind of turned me off and like it's still a really good song though, and now this song is like I worship it. Like that song is that this album, but that song in particular is kind of like a musical force that kind of takes me over, and I can't control myself. I actually kicked a hole in my wall to that song. My dad wasn't too happy about that, but yeah. So I mean, like I said in the video, I said I'll probably like this as I listen to it more. And it was that couldn't be more true. It's exactly what happened. But yeah, to start the actual review, I think that that one word that describes this album perfectly, whether you like it or not, is visceral. Which by definition means relying on instinct rather than intellect. Like you just kind of do something because that's the emotion you feel at that time, rather than think about it and use like logic and rationality and whatnot. That's part of, well, a really big part, but just part of by just part I mean not entirely what makes this album so good, but it is a big part. Um, the the other part that makes the album so good is that the musicianship was obviously, and the lyrics, I'll get to that later, but the musicianship was executed with lots of energy. I mean, the album is basically energy like converted into music. It's just like all of the songs feel like they're trying to like escape out of your speakers. It's pretty incredible. But the other part of what makes them so good is that they were written with intellect. Like, they were taking time to write, but then they were executed with instinct. That's what makes it so good, because if you just write it with instinct and energy and stuff, then it kind of, I mean, most of the time it becomes kind of messy and just all over the place because you wrote it like, oh yeah, let's put that there. It doesn't make any fucking sense. But if you write it thinking about it like, oh no, we have to put there, and then just play it with kind of an emotion and an energy that just comes out of you when you play what you had already written, that's most of the time that's going to be a really good song. And that's what happened with every single song on this album. They're all written fantastically. There's tons of variation, not only in structure but in kind of just um, general traits of the songs. Um, and then the songs transition just flawlessly, and it's so coherent the way that it's written, but then everything is just played just I don't even know how to describe it. It's like the, I don't know, like I said, it's just kind of this thing that just takes you over, like these riffs are just, they're just pulsing, and it's just like yeah, like I said, it feels like they're trying to like break their way out of the speakers, and it's just like wow, it's unmatched. Yeah, like I said about the lyrics, they're also very visceral too. They're not like, I actually haven't heard too many people kind of complain about this. I think a lot of people get it, which is good. They're not like supposed to be like at first glance you read them and they're like here I'll just take them out. I've memorized a lot of it, but just for reference. They're not like supposed to make like each line doesn't have like a relevant meaning, you know, that comes together to create the higher meaning of the song. Actually, a review on Sputnik described the lyrics as impenetrable, and I think that's a perfect word for them because, like, they're not really like talking about any certain thing, with a few exceptions, kind of here and there. Like, but they all kind of have similar like word choice. Like the words are kind of similar. Like they mean the same thing, and they kind of go together, even though they're not all the times grammatically correct. They're just kind of put together to create an atmosphere that that Cedric the singer felt when he was singing the song, and then that's, you know, that's how kind of the atmosphere of the song, like vocally anyway, gets created. Um, you know, and a lot of the lines just fucking sound cool, even though it might not be about a specific thing, you know, except for Invalid Litter Department, which I believe is, I've heard it being about those murders that happen in that city in Mexico, I think, or just below Texas or something, of like young girls or something. He's written a few songs about that. And Enfilade kind of has a lot of imagery that points to the same thing, which that thing is like kidnapping, you know. Like the chorus, he says, "Sacrifice on railroad tracks, freight train coming, freight train coming." Like, you know, that kind of archetype, that Wild West archetype of like the chick tied up laying on a train track, kind of being held for ransom kind of thing. That's what I think about when I listen to that song. You know, and yeah, they're just really interesting, you know, and they're just really, you know, they may seem nonsensical, but I mean, there is actually a lot going on there. There's lots of word choice being used. I mean, a lot of it's very visceral, but some of it's probably gone back and edited just to make it sound better, you know, too. So, hang on a sec. All right. See, that's basically what makes the album so good and so fun to listen to, is that it's just like the music is extremely well written, but then it was just played with this fantastic energy that you just can't help just getting super involved in, you know. It's ridiculous. But yeah, Cedric's voice was, and from a lot of people that pretty much everyone I've heard who's like either listened to this album or I showed it to, his voice turned him off at first, but also all of those people listened to the album more and they grew to love it, and now he's one of my favorite vocalists in general, not in just any genre, you know. I mean, not in just one genre, of any genre. It's addicting, you know, and you begin to kind of love his just the way he kind of like enunciates things, and the way he kind of puts like an like at the end of his R's, like what's a good example of that? He does it a lot in One Arm Scissor. He says, "When you get this letter," like that, you know, like that. And just the way he sings, it's just really, really cool and really, really fun and stuff. So yeah, trust me, you'll grow to love it if you don't like it at first. Yeah, I don't mean to sound like cocky or whatever, but it's true. I mean, it happened to everyone that I know of who's listened to this album before, you know. So yeah, but I haven't actually described like the sound of the album really at all. People call this band post-hardcore, but there's a lot more to it than that. Especially this album, they experiment a lot. Like I said, there's a lot of variation. It definitely keeps it interesting all the way through. There is kind of that post-hardcore aesthetic though, you know, like kind of like, you know, you hear there. I definitely hear a lot of punk influence in there, you know. There's a few, you know, screams here and there too, but it's not because like he's not screaming because, oh well, yeah, we have to scream now because that's what post-hardcore is all about or anything. Oh well, that wouldn't make sense anyway, because this album like came before a lot of any of that. This was like a huge influence on modern post-hardcore. This, along with The Shape of Punk to Come by Refused. When he screams, it's because that's the emotion that he feels when he's singing, and you can totally tell that, you know. Yeah. It's basically just kind of I really wouldn't call it post-hardcore, to be honest. I just call it like, I don't even know. I mean, if I wanted to just quickly tell someone what genre it was, I guess I would say post-hardcore. But I mean, it's like a standard setup, you know, with two guitars, a bass, a drummer and a singer. But like they do so many different things, you know, like every song kind of has like this different atmosphere. Like the opening track, Arc Arsenal, is like this super like frantic, like that's kind of the most like I don't know, the most post-hardcore or hardcore or whatever song on the album, you know. It's fast and it definitely it sets the tone. And then Pattern Against User is pretty post-hardcore. That's kind of just like a 3 minute verse chorus like interlude song. Really, really good though. The interlude is amazing. The way that it like changes. I can't really describe it. You kind of have to listen to it, but you'll definitely hear what I'm talking about when you listen to it. One Arm Scissor is kind of like that too, except for all of the verses and interludes are different. Sleepwalk Capsules is kind of like that too. Also very good though. Fucking awesome chorus. And then Invalid Litter Department is definitely different, like way different from anything coming before it on the album. It's got this really, really intense atmosphere because the guitarist Omar, he puts so many effects on his guitar, like on that main riff, that dun 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 dun. There's like all sorts of shit going on. Yeah, I lose myself in that song. Mannequin Republic is definitely a hardcore song. There's a lot of hardcore influence in there. That song is, song is fucking heavy, dude. Enfilade is definitely the most experimental song on the album because they use like an electronic beat thing in it, and Cedric has a effect on his voice in the verses, very eerie, especially the intro to that song, very eerie. Rolodex Propaganda, Iggy Pop is featured in that song. It's fun. And you know that song might have the best chorus ever written too. Cedric plays guitar in that song too. And then Quarantined, which is kind of sorry. I better wrap it up here. Quarantined kind of has what sounds like the beginnings of the Mars Volta, the band that Omar and Cedric formed after At the Drive-In broke up. There's lots of kind of ambience in it and stuff, and it all just adds to the atmosphere. And then Cosmonaut, like I said, that musical force that just feels like it's, you know, just soaring to the sky, and just like a cosmonaut. And then Non-Zero Possibility has a very prominent key part. You could call it a ballad stereotypically, but very good, very emotionally involving. So yeah, it's just this extremely addicting musical force of just pure energy and like, you know, extremely good songwriting too, and lyrics that just come together to put images in your head. You know, like Cosmonaut. There's lots of imagery in that song about like books in the first verse, and then like flying and shit, and it's just, it all comes together very, very, very well. It's something else. It's extremely unique, and just there's really there was nothing like it before it, and really there hasn't been anything like it since, to be honest. All right, thanks for watching.